One of the hardest parts of writing is getting every paragraph right. Not because they're complicated, but because each one needs to make a clear point in a larger argument. So today I'll explain 3 things. First, what an academic paragraph actually is, because it's different from other types of writing. Second, how to write each sentence of a strong academic paragraph so that they have a clear purpose and are easy to write. And at the end, I'll walk you through a real example, starting with a weak paragraph and showing you how to fix it step by step so that you can write your own. Academic writing is all about convincing our reader of something. To do that, we need each paragraph to make one point, support it clearly, and then move the discussion forward into the next paragraph and our next point. An easy way to think about it is to ask yourself, what is this paragraph trying to prove? If you can't answer that in a single sentence, it usually means that you're not too sure yet about what that paragraph's job is going to be in your bigger argument. The easiest way I've found to fix this is to write a bullet point plan for myself. I write down a bullet point for each of my paragraphs. It's an easy way to see if my writing is going to be cohesive at the end of it. It also means I can move things around, rearrange the order so that my paragraphs make sense one after the other. If I'm struggling to come up with bullet point ideas for what each paragraph will say, that usually means I need to do more research or more thinking about what it is that I'm trying to convey. Most academic paragraphs follow the same logical pattern, no matter what you're writing, whether it's very descriptive or scientific. The logical flow will be the same. Each academic paragraph starts with making a point. It then moves on to explaining that point, then supporting that point with evidence, and then connecting it to your broader argument. Let's break it down. The first sentence is where you make the point. It's what your entire paragraph is going to be about in a single sentence. And it's also the anchor for everything else that follows it. You're literally telling the reader in that first sentence what they're going to be reading about immediately afterwards. You can think about it like being a title of something. Once that idea, that point is clear in your mind, the rest is easier to write. It's why I always recommend writing statement sentences. That means you're making a clear statement and not trying to explain it, not putting in a lot of detail. That also often means that they're quite concise. The second sentence is where we explain what the point is that we're trying to make. It's where we unpack the idea. This is also where a lot of paragraphs fall apart because rather than explaining the point, a lot of writing will jump straight into providing evidence for it. But we need to explain it first so that it's clear what we're talking about. When you're trying to write this sentence, it can help to answer questions in your mind. For example, what does this idea involve? Why does it matter in this context? How do I want the reader to understand it? Or is there any background information that the reader needs to know for them to be able to understand what my point is? You can do this by providing extra detail. This is your reasoning sentence. The third sentence is all about your evidence. This is where you clearly support whatever your point is. It's the perfect place to add in data, examples, or quotes. This sentence also makes it very clear that you haven't just invented the idea of the paragraph or your point. It comes from other sources. It has a basis in fact. And always use credible sources. For academic writing, that means peer-reviewed journal articles. Books still count, but having that peer-review nature makes them more credible. A key point to remember with this sentence, though, is that your evidence supports your point. It doesn't replace it. It can be easy to get bogged down in a lot of data here and miss making your point. And this is also the sentence where you have to be a little bit careful. If all you do is include a lot of numbers or quotes, your paragraph loses focus, and it makes it harder to read and understand. The last sentence of our paragraph is all about connection. It's where we link the main point of our paragraph to the broader topic of whatever it is we're writing and to the next paragraph that follows. So it's also the trickier sentence to write. A good rule of thumb I have is if you can read the first sentence of your paragraph and then your last one and they make sense together, then you've stayed on track and it's still very focused. If you've started talking entirely about something else in your last sentence, then you need to come back and revisit what the point of your paragraph was again. Let's look at a quick comparison between a weak and strong paragraph in terms of the ideas before we jump into a real example. A weak paragraph often introduces a topic, lists some information, adds a citation, and then doesn't really land a point in its final sentence. Whereas a strong academic paragraph makes a clear claim, explains it in plain language, uses evidence to support that explanation, and shows why the idea matters. Same idea, same almost logical flow, but very different outcome. Let me show you what I mean. Here's an example of a weak paragraph. This paragraph isn't bad, but if I ask myself, what is this paragraph actually arguing? What's its point? then the answer isn't clear. In fact, it mentions transition, independence, time management, and support structures. That's 4 ideas in one paragraph. So the first step in fixing this paragraph is to decide what claim it's actually making. What is the point of the paragraph? Let's say that the core idea we want is that difficulties with time management are a main reason why students struggle transitioning into university. Everything else in our paragraph should now support that point. So instead of our vague introduction sentence, we're now going to make that point clear. Poor time management skills are a major reason students struggle during the transition to university study. Now the reader knows exactly what the paragraph is going to be about. So the next sentence should explain why time management matters here in this context. Instead of general discussion about independence, we can now connect it directly to the claim. University study requires students to manage competing deadlines, independent reading, and long-term assessments without the structured schedules common in secondary education. Now the idea is unpacked, not just stated. We don't just talk about time management or independence, we're explaining why it matters. Now we can use our evidence properly to support our point. And in fact, that same evidence will now make sense to the reader because they know what is happening. Research by Smith found that students who reported difficulty organizing their study time were significantly more likely to struggle academically in their first year. We can now see that that evidence is specific and directly supports our point. We can go ahead now and add a clear connection. Finally, we can show why this specific point matters in our overall discussion. These findings suggest that early support for time management skills may play an important role in easing students' transition into university-level study. Here's our final paragraph. We haven't had to change much to make the paragraph clear. Nothing new was added. We didn't use complex vocabulary, and we didn't add extra sources of information. We just made the paragraph do one job, explained our line of reasoning, and guided the reader through it clearly. A simple test that you can use yourself for each paragraph is to finish this sentence. This paragraph argues that. If you can't finish that sentence simply, it means your paragraph isn't ready yet. This exact approach works in essays, literature reviews, reports, and even longer research papers. Because good academic writing isn't about using big words or long sentences. It's about guiding the reader through your thinking, and the clearer your thoughts are, the clearer your writing will be.